crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land.
Good morning, tabletop role-playing game fans. It's 8:30 in the morning here at Site B. It is me, OGGM, your guide to another week of tabletop role-playing game news, weather, and general internet nonsense. Once again, let's plot our course through the tumultuous waters of all things 1.1 time Braunstein and Wizards of the Coast. But hey, it must be a spring April Fool's miracle, because April Fool's is tomorrow. Not a single Wizards of the Coast story. Now, there is a very vague whisper of a hint of a rumor involving the fate of the Adventurers Guild, but I cannot confirm this in any way, shape, or form. So I don't want to get into it until I know for sure, but yeah, it feels like it's something Wizards would do. They've done it before. So, but for now, nothing Wizards. We do have 3 kind of stories, not really. And then we have another story involving the Braunstein thing, because for a very minuscule, little-known style of play, it seems to be getting a lot of attention lately, mostly thanks to our Harmony Ginger. Okay, Paisio has teased new content for Rise of the Rune Lords. Now, if you remember, way back in the dawn of the OGM Pathfinder years, the very first product line they made was Rise of the Rune Lords, and it had some questionable things in there involving certain things, but it introduced this group of villains known as the Rune Lords. Well, it looks like we're revisiting them. They are hinting at some new content, and the Rune Lords coming back. Elizabeth Moon's Paxweld series is getting a tabletop role-playing game. If you're familiar with the Paxweld series, you might be familiar. If you're not, apparently it's one of the best portrayals of a paladin and the progression of an individual becoming a paladin in fantasy fiction. So this individual's world is being converted to a tabletop role-playing game. There was a new Kickstarter for Alien, the brand new version of the role-playing game from our friends at Free League, and it broke the $1 million at 1.6 million. Congratulations, Free League. Congratulations, Kelsey, for her new product, getting $1 million for Shadowdark. We've got some new stuff coming out for the Cyber PNK role-playing game. This is called Blade, a cyberpunk hack of Blades in the Dark from MythWorks. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Look at this. No Wizards of the Coast news. Wow. All right. So the Braunstein thing has reared its ugly head again because Griff is attempting to file a trademark on the word, idea, concept of Braunstein. Now people who have been following this are probably going to be going, God damn, blah, blah, blah. But for people who aren't following this and have no idea what I'm talking about, why would we care that this individual is trying to file a trademark for this name? And what is a Braunstein? Again, it's basically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then this is sort of a pointless story. But anyways, long story short, too late. It's a style of role-playing game very similar to Diplomacy/Civilization, where instead of playing, you play kingdoms or concepts, but then you also play individuals. So the original idea was war game, but war game deals with, hundreds of figures. What's the story of that one guy in the war game? And how do we play out that guy's story in the midst of the war game? So you have the war game faction play, and then you have play where the individuals, and they would tell stories about each individual figure. And that sort of was the genesis of initial role playing, where you would just be like, what is the story of this figure? Oh, this figure's got a messenger bag. So what's their story? And then we play out another scenario with the war, and then we go back. Okay, yeah. I mean, it on paper, it's cool. And I've played in Braunstein games hundreds of times. And it does work. Does work for a short campaign, can work for a long campaign. The play style's been around forever, but very few people know the name. A lot of people know it as like campaign, King's building, world building, microscope, kingdom, campaign building type of campaigns. They've had different names. But they all supposedly originate from this Braunstein, which originates from another military game, which originates from another military game, which goes all the way back to the Greek plays and the style of dramatic plays and the stories of individuals in wide world, when the Deus Ex Machina, where you tell the story of what's going on in the wide world, and then you tell the story of the individual, then you tell the story. So it's not like the guy invented the style, but the word has interesting origins depending upon which one you believe. So flash forward 100 years till this year, where our friend Harmony Ginger was talking about her Godstein game, and some individuals came after her over using the word Braunstein, and it got very, very toxic very, very fast, and nobody was quite sure why. This individual was saying some pretty awful things, but basically it boiled down to who owns that title and can you use that name? And the answer was, yeah, of course we can, because it's a name, and you can't own a name, and it's a name from a street, if I remember correctly. So and as for the style of play that Harmony was doing, not only did she give credit to where she got the idea from, but she never tried to make any money off of it or ever made any claims that it was hers. And then thankfully it faded away. But recently our good friend Kelsey Dion mentioned that she was thinking of doing something with Braunstein on an interview, and that caused the ugliness to bubble up again. And then a few days later, Griff Morgan, the individual who caused all this trouble, is filing the trademark. So can he file a trademark on the word? It's questionable. Trademark law, I have a trademark, as you know, for West Coast Grognard. But obviously I can't trademark the word West Coast, and I can't trademark the word Grognard, and I can't even really trademark the word West Coast Grognard, even though nobody else has ever used it. But I can trademark a very specific representation of the word. It's like Superman. You can't copyright Superman because it's out there and it's a word that has existed before DC Comics. But what DC Comics owns is very specific representations of the word and very specific presentations of the word. That S in the triangle, that they own. The way Superman is written on the comics, that they own. You can't use that. The image of Superman, that's theirs. You can't use that. The name Clark Kent, that's theirs, right? So Clark Kent being Superman, that's theirs. 100% that's theirs. And then you might be going, but I see stuff with Superman on it that isn't theirs. Same with Mickey Mouse. When you go to like gas stations or roadside attractions near to Disney, you'll see product with the characters on it, and Disney isn't making that. So is that violating the copyright? Can you put Mickey on a shirt and not get in trouble? Well, can you put Superman on a shirt and not get in trouble? Or do those companies have the wherewithal to go after you? And again, it gets very questionable about, points of difference. But before you violate a trademark, as if your character looks different enough in enough ways, it's not violating the trademark, it's not violating the copyright. But more accurately, it's just they don't want to bother. Sure, technically they could go after them, but why? Why go after the people who are making the non-legal Mickey Mouse stuff? It's just a waste of time. It's a waste of effort. The amount of money the people make off the knockoffs is so minuscule compared to the amount of money Disney makes in a day. That it's like, I don't know, it's free advertising, right? There is some thought to the idea that makes you start thinking about where the source of the product is. So you go to the gas station, you buy the Mickey Mouse keychain. subconsciously your brain's going, where else can I get more Mickey stuff? Where else can I go? Oh, I could go to Disneyland. Yeah. So he could try to trademark a very specific representation of the word, a presentation of the word. But again, it's, can he trademark the word? Can he copyright it? Can he copyright the system? Why is this coming up again? Why is it problematic? Why is it turning something that shouldn't be problematic into a problem? I mean, really, there's no reason to have anything resembling an argument or a fight or ugliness over this. It's like, hey, this person is drawing attention to the style of play. It's the most anybody has talked about the style of play in 50 years. People are now going, I want to play in a Braunstein. I want to run a Braunstein. What the fuck is a Braunstein? So it should have been a nothing burger. But for some reason, people made it into something it's not. And now that Kelsey Dion is talking about doing something with Braunstein, it raised the ugliness again. And now they're filing a trademark, and people are like going, well, you waited too long. Why are you filing the trademark now? You should have filed the trademark years ago. I was like, again, they're just... We don't know the full story. So we can't 100% shake a fist at any individual involved and go, shame on you. Now, I did say some things, and Kelsey called me to task on it, and I appreciated that, with much respect for Kelsey. But then I have also personal reasons to just find that anything that individual does suspicious, not because of the way he treated Harmony, but because of some other stuff that just made me go, even before the Harmony thing, that made me go, is this guy really on the up and whatever? I'm not here to badmouth anybody. Too late. But it's news. The other thing news is, because you're talking about Braunstein, you're talking about 1.1 time. And Sandy Peterson made a little post about, he just thinks 1.1 time is moronic and retarded and doesn't work. And I responded, dude, probably not the best wording. People are very defensive. Now, I don't think 1.1 time works. It might work for short bursts, but in a long game, I've never seen it work. But people claim it does work. And there's arguments for why 1.1 time in a game works, and there's plenty of arguments for why it doesn't, especially in fantasy. Just because time is such an abstract concept in gaming anyways, and especially in D20 level-based Gygaxian fantasy, time is not a linear concept that works according to time. It's a wibbly-wobbly ball of science-wimey stuff, to use a Doctor Who phrase. Now, I don't think 1.1 time works in fantasy. It can work for like short periods, but then you fall into the hypothetical arguments of like, well, let's say it's going to take the characters a month to get from the city of Solzburg to the capital city of Solington. Are we just supposed to take an entire month off from the game while we wait for our character's timeline to catch up with the calendar timeline? If you tell me it's going to take 2 weeks for my character to accomplish something, am I, the player, just supposed to stand in the corner for 2 weeks while the rest of the game continues? It's just, there's too many hypothetical real life things that just say, yeah, 1-to-1 time doesn't really work in fantasy, especially where, you have things like 15 minutes of combat are resolved in 2 minutes, but it takes an hour of real time to be resolved, and like stuff and like blah, blah, blah. It's just, time is weird, and time is doubly weird in fantasy. But it's a thing again because Sandy Peterson brought it up. And I will say that while I kind of agree with him, the words he chose to use were probably not the best. Moronic, retarded. It's a style of play. And like any style of play, be it Braunstein, be it, X cards, be it whatever, if the whole group is on board, then it works. And if you're having fun, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't make sense to my dyslexic brain. Apparently, it doesn't make sense to Sandy Peterson. Do I agree that it doesn't work? Yeah, I kind of think it doesn't work, but there's plenty of examples of people telling me it does. But insulting people who's the style of play is never a good thing. It's never a good thing to start a fight over this silly hobby, because it's just a stupid game about goblins with sticks. And speaking of goblins with sticks, today is the last day to get the markdown on the Vigilantes for Shadowdark. Link down below. Shameless self-promotion. The only superhero role-playing game for the award-winning Shadowdark so far. It's the last chance to pick it up. Markdown. Link down below. Tomorrow I will raise the prices to something a little bit more reasonable. I don't know what, because it's not like a selling as it is. So I might keep the price around the $10, $15 for the PDF. And for the PODs, probably around the $20, $10, $15, $20 for the PODs. So links down below. Last tell you to get at the discounts. What are your thoughts on 1.1 time? What are your thoughts on the Braunstein silliness? Do you even know what a Braunstein is? Do you even care what a Braunstein is? I don't really care. But it's a thing. And it's my job to inform you of these things so you don't have to think about it. It's like, well, if I talk about it, then you don't have to think about it, because I've already told you about it. And you can focus your energy on more important things, like having a great day and enjoying spring. The sun seems to be struggling its way through the gloom. Perhaps April showers, May flowers, whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. I obviously need some caffeine. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day. And hey, no Wizards of the Coast news.
Dice and ride the wave. Quest and dragons, the news we crave. Under neon lights we take a stand. Knights and wizards across the land.